All right, so 9.2, we're going to be learning what the actual trig ratios are. And then later we will use these trig ratios to find the side lengths and the angles. But for today, we're just practicing the actual ratios. So you may have heard of sine, cosine, and tangent. And we abbreviate them like with the first three letters, but don't say sin. You still say the whole word sine, cosine, and tangent, even though you abbreviate it. So in order to find sine of an angle, you take the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. So if you're asked to find sine of A, so when we write our trig ratios, we write sine, cosine, or tangent, and then we stick the angle with it. It's sine of an angle. So sine of angle A, that would be the opposite over hypotenuse. So what side is opposite of angle A? Which one? Little a, or side BC. So sine of A would be little a over, what is the hypotenuse? C. So if I said, what is sine of A? It's A over C. Okay. Sine of B, what is sine of B? Little b over little c, yep. So opposite of B is little b, and then hypotenuse is C. Remember, your adjacent and opposite will change based on which angle you're talking about, but the hypotenuse doesn't. All right. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So if we're talking about the cosine of angle A, which one would be the adjacent side? It is B. So little a would be the opposite, and C is the hypotenuse, so that would be B would have to be adjacent, and your hypotenuse is still C. So write down what you think cosine of B is. So if little b is the opposite and C is the hypotenuse, it has to be A over C. You'll never have to do sine, cosine, or tangent of where your right angle is. Just your other two. And then tangent is opposite over adjacent. So see if you can fill in tangent of A and tangent of B. So tangent of A, that's A over B, and tangent of B is B over A. So there's a few ways that people remember these ratios. So the one I prefer, I don't like to read out. Some people they say a bunch of words to correspond with the letters. I just like to remember SOHCAHTOA. Now, if you're going to remember SOHCAHTOA, you got to remember how to spell SOHCAHTOA. If you spell it wrong, then it doesn't help you out. So some people have like a big long sentence. One of them is some old horse caught another horse taking oats away. That's one. Or some people say some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. So I just remember SOHCAHTOA. And so that helps us because sine is O over H. So it S-O-H, sine O over H. And then cosine is A over H. And tangent is O over A. So that's where those letters come in. So let's go through, and we're actually going to put numbers with, instead of having like A, B, and C, we're actually going to put the numbers with them. So, 4, it's frozen. Done. All right. So for sine of A, sine is O over H. So the opposite side is 5. And the height is 13. You can't really label these sides because we're starting with A, but we're also doing C. So, which this one is always the height, but the other two will flip-flop. So don't label them with O, A, and H. All right, cosine of A. Cosine is A over H. So if 5 is the opposite, 12 has to be my A. And H is my 13. Tangent of A is opposite over adjacent. So 5 over 12. I know, it's being awful. Okay. Now we're going to base it on angle C. See, it's still. So, people that are watching the video are probably really annoyed. All right, so C, if we're doing sine of C, now the opposite is 12. So 12, hypotenuse is still 13. That doesn't change. The adjacent side is going to be 5. So 5 over 13. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. 12 over 5. Any questions? All right, number 2, we are missing one of the side lengths which we need. How can we find this missing side? We can do Pythagorean Theorem. So this is a Pythagorean triple. So if you remember those triples, you could use that. But if you don't, then we'll go over here and say, all right, 9 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared. And you should get, is it 225?
Yep.
Equals c squared. So the square root of 225 is 15. So that missing side is 15. So now I want you to try to fill in all of those blanks. All right, so sine of W should have got 12 over 15. Cosine of W is 9 over 15. And tangent of W is 12 over 9. Any questions on those? All right, sine of X is 9 over 15. Cosine is 12 over 15. And tangent is 9 over 12.